There was a time when motorcycles didn't ask for permission, they dominated. And among them shone an indomitable beast, the Suzuki Bandit 1200. An engine born from superbikes, a simple yet effective chassis, and a character so wild that it earned the respect of an entire generation. It wasn't merely a motorcycle, it was a bold declaration of war on two wheels. Today, we are going to reminisce about how the Bandit transformed from being a rebellious street fighter to becoming one of the most cherished and feared legends in the world of motorcycling. In the early 1990s, Suzuki was strategically engaged in a complex chess game with motorcycles. They had the GSX-R series dominating the superbike scene, with machines specifically engineered to push the boundaries on the racing track, featuring sharp aerodynamic fairings and engines that roared powerfully to the skies. However, naturally, not every individual desired or possessed the ability to navigate the city streets on a motorcycle engineered for the grueling 24-hour endurance race of Le Mans. The typical rider required something different. Something more pragmatic and more comfortable for daily use, yet still able to evoke a grin on anyone's face, with the initial twist of the throttle. Suzuki's clever formula was simple. Take high-performance superbike engines, tone them down a bit for easier everyday use, put them in simpler frames, and sell them at more affordable prices. Consequently, the Bandit family came into existence, initially making its debut with the more compact versions, namely the 250, 400, and 600 models, targeting the youthful rider seeking style without exceeding their budget. However, Suzuki was well aware that the main event was approaching in 1996. What if we took the nearly unaltered engine block of the GSX-R 1100, enhanced it with additional mid-range torque, placed it into a naked bike devoid of fairings, and offered it at a more affordable price? And so, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, the Suzuki Bandit 1200 emerged into existence, representing the ultimate street monster par excellence. With its 1157 cubic centimeter engine derived from the GSX-R, 36mm carburetors, approximately 98 horsepower initially, which subsequently increased, and a torque that pulled from the bottom like a formidable locomotive. The Bandit was an unequivocal declaration. There was no necessity to endlessly twist the throttle. Starting from 3,000 revolutions per minute, it was already propelling forward as though a freight train had collided with you. The chassis was robust, the suspensions were adequate, and the riding position was comfortable. It was suitable for both traveling and doing burnouts at the entrance of a bar. The most remarkable aspect was its exceptional value for the money. Whereas competitors such as the Honda CB or the Yamaha XJR were marketed as high-end motorcycles, the Van Dyke was priced significantly lower and provided far more exhilarating experiences. It was akin to purchasing a pre-owned muscle car, inexpensive, unrefined, and equipped with more horsepower than you likely required. The Suzuki 1200 Bandit was outfitted with an engine that was truly something extraordinary. It was a power unit directly derived from the GSX-R 1100 of the 1980s and 1990s, albeit modified. What actions did the engineers undertake? They augmented the engine displacement to 1157 cubic centimeters. They enhanced its internal smoothness slightly, and rather than tuning it to achieve the intense scream of 11,000 RPM, they modified it so that its power was accessible within the practical range in the middle of the rev counter. In other words, it wasn't an engine made to show off on the racing track. It was carefully designed to give you plenty of power for every overtaking move on the street. The result was a true torque powerhouse. You could release the clutch in the second gear, gently twist the throttle, and the Bandit was already more than eager to lift the front wheel. And most intriguingly, it accomplished this in a predictable, linear, and dignified manner, not resembling an untamed beast. This was made possible due to its precise tuning, 36mm Mikuni carburetors in the earlier versions, a straightforward yet durable transmission, and a tubular steel frame that endured all the punishment without wavering. Sure, it wasn't the lightest chassis in the world, but it more than sufficed for real-world use. Why did this particular formula prove effective? Because in 90% of real-world situations, what truly matters is not the horsepower at the peak of the rev range, but rather the torque available in the mid-range. When you desire to overtake a vehicle, pull away from a traffic signal with elegance, or embark on a journey without the engine constantly screaming, torque becomes your most reliable ally. And the Bandit provided you with an abundance of that. Consistently available, perpetually honest. It was the motorcycle that made you feel akin to a superhero without necessitating the need to push the boundaries. Furthermore, by not being overly obsessed with the utmost technical sophistication, Suzuki successfully managed to maintain the cost low and the reliability exceptionally high. Reduced inconvenience, more cost-effective upkeep, and a power delivery that felt comparable to raw yet disciplined strength. It's akin to taking the essence of an experienced martial artist and embedding it in the physique of a corporate professional. On the outside, it seems calm, but when it heats up, it splits the table in two. The Bandit was just that, a racing engine that didn't complain about taking you to work every day. Riding a Bandit 1200 feels akin to mounting a robust tractor that possesses the refined manners of a motorcycle. The initial aspect you observe is that intense and brutal kick in the mid-range of the rev counter. You don't have to rev up the engine like you would on a 600cc sport motorcycle, because simply by twisting the throttle slightly, you experience a surge of torque that propels you forward, as if someone had given you a strong push from behind. The delivery is smooth, reliable, and without surprises, making it a trustworthy companion. It gives you power when you ask for it, but never in a frantic manner. The riding posture is also extremely crucial. It is semi-upright with broad handlebars, a generously spacious seat, and foot pegs positioned in a relaxed manner, which means you can comfortably utilize it in the city without straining your wrists, knees, or back. In the city, it feels like a comfortable tank with a lot of control, while on the road it conveys poise and stability as if it were an even bigger motorcycle. And in the mountain passes, when you dare to rev it up to higher levels, it truly surprises you. It's not a supersport motorcycle, but it holds its own by providing a sense of fun and a certain level of agility thanks to its immediate and responsive torque. The weight was quite noticeable, particularly during stationary maneuvers or when traveling at lower speeds, exceeding 230 kilograms ready to ride. Certain versions were equipped with a 5-speed gearbox, which might feel somewhat limited on extended journeys compared to competitors with 6 gears. The braking system, suitable for regular use, might feel a bit lacking if the bike was heavily loaded or had exhaust systems and performance kits, and vibrations were naturally part of the ride. The air oil-cooled Sachs engine possessed a distinct character, yet it also transmitted noticeable tingling sensations to the mirrors and handlebars, particularly in the older models. Suzuki aimed for a carefully considered equilibrium. It was not a motorcycle engineered to shatter lap records on the racing circuit, but rather to be a dependable, sturdy bike with substantial power in any genuine scenario. And that equilibrium was precisely what rendered it so immensely popular, because it provided an authentic, straightforward, and potent experience. The Suzuki Bandit 1200 wasn't the lightest, most sophisticated, or the prettiest. Yet it was genuine. It captured the essence of a superbike, making raw power accessible to anyone eager to experience it without extra frills. For many years, it was the reliable companion of countless bikers. Some used it for daily commutes to work, while others took it on fully loaded trips. And numerous individuals simply venture out on a Sunday to reminisce that life is savored more with the engine vigorously propelling beneath your legs. Today, over 25 years later, the Bandit 1200 is no longer in production, yet it continues to be ridden by those who understand what a piece of history, a street beast masquerading as an economical motorcycle, genuinely represents. Because the Bandit never aspired to achieve perfection, it aimed to be genuine. And in a world filled with increasingly advanced technological, more electronic, and more impersonal motorcycles, that raw honesty is precisely what keeps it alive in the collective memory. Ultimately, the Bandit 1200 was not merely a motorcycle. It served as a reminder that the straightforward formula of a large engine combined with an affordable price equals guaranteed enjoyment can still craft legends. And that, dear friends, encapsulates the enchantment of an authentic 90s street fighter. If you wish to encounter its younger counterpart, the Bandit 400, simply click on this video.